Time keeps on leaving and we keep on moving. When do we pass on our wisdom to the youth? My veteran story, lost arts discussions, fireside chats with a bourbon or two. It's time to hear the stories by our military veterans. Get yourself ready. It's the Lost Arts Podcast. The Lost Arts with Andrew Cox.
Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Lost Art Podcast. That podcast is giving a voice to our veterans. On today's episode, we have a My Veteran Story with Marine Vietnam veteran Ron Dunning. But before we get into that episode, are you enjoying the podcast? Then consider becoming a TLA patron. That's the Lost Arts patron. It is through donations that we are able to continue recording the podcast and getting our veteran voices out for all to hear. Just go to the Lost Art website and click on the Become a Patron link at the top. If becoming a TLA patron doesn't work for you and you would rather give a one-time donation, then go to the Lost Art website and scroll down until you see the donations link. Any donation is appreciated. And if you'd like to be a guest on the podcast and tell your veteran story, then email me at thelostartwithandrewcox@gmail.com. Again, that's thelostartwithandrewcox@gmail.com. And as always, we always have merchandise for sale. So you can go in and you click that merchandise tab and you can get you a cool hat, a mug, a shirt, something like that to help support the podcast. All right. With that, I have Mr. Ron Dunning with us. Ron, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty good, actually.
Awesome. Well, hey, welcome to the show. I'm excited. I know we've had a couple times we weren't able to connect, but we finally did it, and I'm excited about it. We're going to get you on here. So I guess let's start at the beginning for you, kind of where you kind of grew up and then kind of what led you into military service in the Marine Corps specifically.
Sure. I grew up in Boston, Massachusetts, the outer side of Boston there, Brookline. It's called Brookline, Mass. Have two brothers and two sisters and a brother. I'm the oldest of four, and then a single parent family. Basically, what got me into the Marine Corps was I was going to Brookline High School. I've always been attracted to the Marines. I like the esprit de corps type of, the Charge of the Light Brigade, all of those ones, the Spartans, all of that. So when I used to watch these Sunday, it came on Sunday. I forgot what it was called, Victory at Sea or something like that. They have one of those, and you know what I'm talking about? It used to run kind of U.S. kind of propaganda to show how we were in the middle and what we did in the war. So I used to watch those, and this is before. Actually, it was before John Wayne, and all of that stuff came along with the. Right. So I used to watch them, and it always kind of intrigued me, the brotherhood that they had, and the one code that stuck with me was we don't leave anybody on the battlefield. Okay. And I was curious about that. So I kind of, as at a young age, looked into it, asked questions, and found out that the Marine Corps go into a battle without a really plan of retreat. They, it's like plan one, plan two. If the first one doesn't work, you boot again, Yeah. So, make a long story short, I was in high school. I was having issues with my mom, so I was living on my own, okay, in a rooming house. I was in junior high school. I was working at International House of Pancakes as a night manager. So I was making money,
Yeah.
And then one day I went to school, and a guidance counselor. See, at the time, I don't know if you know about Boston, but Boston had a lot of issues. Okay. This is pre-Boston busing.
Okay.
So I was like one of four blacks in the high school, in Brookline High School. So anyways, the guidance counselor called me into his office one day, and he says, hey, Ron, I want you to bring this note home to your mom and blah, blah, blah. So, innocently enough, I didn't really think anything of it. I says, well, I can't really, because I'm not living at home. And when he heard that, he says, oh, you're not living at home? Well, you have to be living at home. And I'm, well, I've been going to school for a whole year, guy, I don't understand this. So he suspended me from school until I brought the note from my mother, right? So,
Okay.
I mean, that wasn't going to happen. I wasn't living at home. I mean, I was communicating, but I wasn't at home. So at that time, they had a thing out where they could turn your name into the draft board, different organizations. Okay. And this guidance counselor turned my name into the draft board in the month.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's kind of weird, but I was at that time I was hanging out with a lot of college students, some from Northeastern, and one of them happened to work at the draft board, and I didn't know this. So at this rooming house, about I want to say a month after my mom's telling me that there's these manila envelopes showing up with official government stuff on it. And I'm like, really? Well, you know what, Mom? Just throw them in the trash, So, the draft, I'm like, wow, it must be, I'm not answering that. So anyways, I get a call at the rooming house one day and someone says, hey, Ron, there's a call for you. It's one of those payphones. Okay, type rooming house. Back in the day, payphone. So I answer the phone and it's like, is this Ron Dunning? I go, yeah. He says, well, you probably don't remember me, but I met you at a party at Northeastern. And I go, yeah. He says, well, I work for the draft board. And right away, I'm getting nervous. I says, really? He says, yeah, man. He says, your name came across our desk. Okay. And it's at the point right now that the FBI are looking for you.
Oh, no.
I'm like, really? And he says, yeah. He says, if I was you, brother, I would go down and enlist in something. So I hung up the phone. I'm like, what the heck? Okay, now, one, how did he get my number? Okay, how did he, And two, the FBI are looking for me? Holy crap. Okay, so at that time, the Air Force had a waiting list. I'm talking now August. Yeah, it was September, August, July. Okay, July of 1967.
Okay.
There was a waiting list. Okay. So, and I had already talked to a guy that was he lived in a room next to me. He was in the Navy and he was part of a fire control of a destroyer. And so like he and I talked about the Navy. I actually wore his uniform one night, out just it was cold and stuff. And he says, hey man, put on my uniform. It'll warm. And man, Navy uniforms are warm. They're made for the cold.
Yeah.
So he told me that you don't want to go in the Navy. All right, I knew that. He says, man, if you go in the Navy as a black person, basically you're just going to be a glorified porter or waiter. You're never going to see shore duty. Okay, when the ship goes, oh yeah, you'll travel around, but when you get to the port, you're basically going to end up with a metallic paint chipper with a bosun's chair, chipping barnacles or swabbing decks. You'll never see leave. So I was like, wow, okay. So that already turned me off to the Navy. So the Air Force, I did try to go in the Air Force, but it had a waiting list. So something said, something, man, you're going to end up going to Vietnam. I know why I have these thoughts. So I went down, talked to the recruiter. All right. He's trying to convince me to join for 4 years. I wasn't really too convinced. And I said, well, I'll be back. So I went home. About 2 days later, I get another phone call and it's the same person from the draft. He says, Ron, he says, listen, did you join? I go, no. He says, well, what happened? I said, well, I went down there, but he says, brother, you need to go down, go back. So I hung up the phone, went down, took the oath. When I got back to the rooming house on the same day, okay, went down and joined. I didn't take the oath yet. Went down and joined and came back, and I was supposed to go in to take the oath. Okay.
Yeah.
I get back to the rooming house and I'm looking and there's like 3 or 4 strange cars in the street, it's like, and so when I go up to the rooming house, I got bum rushed.
Yeah.
Hey, this is the FBI, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, okay, well, yeah. And he says, okay, you thought you was getting away, but you're going into the army. I says, no, I'm not, man. He says, what are you talking about? I says, hey, I enlisted in the Marine Corps. And the look on their face was just, I mean, I wish I could have captured it. They would just, blew their whole bubble. Okay, blew the whole bubble. So they let me go because I showed them the papers. I'm enlisted. See, I'm Uncle Sam here. The next day I took the oath, and this happened to be the day that the Marine Corps drafted.
Oh, really?
Yep. During 1967, August, I enlisted August 7th, 1967. Wow. That day is the day that they decided it was going to draft. It was within that time period. Okay. And I was there at the Fargo building. There was about 75 of us standing there. And this gunny sergeant walked up onto the stage, and he stuck we took the oath. Then he stuck his arm out, and he says, "Everybody on the right side of my arm, you can thank your lucky stars. You're going into the Army. Everybody on the left side, your ass belongs to me now. You're in the Marine Corps." And it was a hush, and I groaned, and I've never seen grown men like act this way and get upset before. But there was actually some guys really just about ready to break down in tears, it looked like, It's kind of funny. So that's how I got into the Marine Corps.
That's pretty wild. That's a good story, though. I like that. Yeah. So, all right. So you joined the Marine Corps, and so being from Boston area, you went to Parris Island. Is that correct?
Yep. I actually was at a party. A buddy of mine, the night before I was supposed to go to North Station? Yeah, it was North Station. South Station, excuse me. Train station. The recruiter said, meet me at, I believe it was 800 in the morning. I believe it was 700 in the morning. He says, meet me at 7 o'clock in the morning at South Station entrance. So my best friend Hank took me, I was at a party, and he asked me what you want to do. And I was feeling kind of weird. I said, listen, man, I really like to go to Cape Cod. Boston, Cape Cod's about an hour, half away. We made it down there about, maybe 4:30, 5 o'clock. The sun was just coming up. I went to a beach. I watched the sunrise, got a film canister of sand. Then I says, Hank, I got to get to South Station, man. So as we're going across the Bourne Bridge, I asked him if he had any change, and he handed me 2 quarters, and I flipped them, and made a silent wish, because I love Cape Cod, bring me back. Okay, as we went over the bridge, I watched the coins sail into the canal. So I get down to South Station, and the recruiter is there. And there was 7 other guys too. There's another part to that story, a guy named Beaky. Okay, he's from East Boston. He was tall, and he had an Adam's apple. I remember that big Adam's apple. And he was standing behind the recruiter when the recruiter walked up to me and said, "Okay, Dunning, this is your first official order in the Marine Corps. Make sure that these other 7 individuals get to Parris Island." And he hands me the paper, and I'm looking at Beaky standing behind him, like doing this kind of strange look, And so the recruiter walked off, and Beaky walked up to me and says, "Hey, I don't know what the hell he gave you that, man." I go, "What's up with that?" I go, "You know something, dude? It looks like you and I are going to have a problem. I don't know why he did either, but you ain't going to mess up my first order in the Marine Corps. So when we get on this train, you're going to sit across from me." Okay. This is really it's interesting. So we get he gives me the paper, and it had, I remember, Murphy and Beaky, and it was some other guys. He gets me we get on the train, and as the train's rolling along, we get to some place, I forget where it was, maybe just outside of DC or something. Train stops at the station, and, I went to the bathroom, and then when I came back, Beaky was nowhere to be found.
Oh, no.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm looking, and then I hear the whistle, and it's like, okay, all aboard, all that shit. And, excuse me. So, I'm looking out the door, and where the hell? I see him running up the ramp, right, to get to the train, and he gets in there. Needless to say, we almost had to go down. We almost had to throw down, So, so we get to the train. I think they do this on purpose. We get to the train station. The train station actually was a bus station too. Okay. And it was like really late in the morning. I want to say it was like somewhere around maybe 1 o'clock ish in the morning. Okay. So we're all sitting, nobody else is there except us and a bunch of other people that are coming from other parts. And we're all sitting there all quiet. And finally people are falling asleep. The bus pulls up, and we wake up, get on the bus. And then, I'm trying to stay awake and fall asleep again. I'm at the back of the bus. Yeah. The next thing I hear, we watch it, it stops. I wake up and I see the main gate. It's like, oh, shoot, we're going into Parris Island. Wow. And I'm trying to stay awake, but, it's a long ride from the main gate into Parris Island. PI. You go to PI?
I didn't know, but I've been there. So
you've been there. So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it took, I nodded out again. The next thing I heard was this drill instructor get on the front of the bus and a real wake up, screaming and stuff. Wake up. Said, okay, gentlemen. He didn't call us gentlemen at this time. I feel with the ladies, that's what it was. Okay, ladies.
Yeah.
And I'm listening to this. He says, there's some yellow footprints outside this bus. When I say get off this bus, I want every swinging yada, yada, yada to get their ass off this bus. And he's like, move. All you people that don't do your right and the left, there's a right and a left, and that's how it began. But I had this paper, everything out of I had this paper. So I'm standing with this paper and he walks up. He says, "What the hell is that?" He says, "Sir, I'm reporting, and I'm supposed to have." And he snatches that at me. He says, "Oh, we have somebody, Mr. Important here." And he looks at the paper. "Oh, okay, Mr. Important. Oh, okay. Well, Mr. Important got what they call it, fire watch, while everybody else slept."
It's nice.
We got the bucket and all that, and take us into this, and we found bunks, and he said, "Mr. Important, get up here." And he hands me a helmet liner and a flashlight. He said, "You got fire watch, grab a butter." So I'm walking around not knowing what the hell I'm doing, and I mean, we didn't sleep that long. I mean, the lights weren't out that long before the lights went on and a trash can went down the middle of the thing and people started screaming. Okay. We went over to the 3rd Battalion from the receiving area, and it was quite a hump with the sea bag and everything. That was quite some hump. I get over there and I have a Mr. Important in my platoon. So
Not going to leave you.
Not going to leave me alone, man, So, but as it turned out, he said, "Mr. Important, get up here." He hands me the platoon guide on.
Nice.
So I became the series platoon guide on for 3020.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to be important then.
Yeah. In that case, it was.
Very nice. So, how was your boot camp experience overall? I mean, was it fairly quick? I mean, at that point in time, they're trying to get a lot of people through. So, was it a short?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. They cut the time period down. Yeah, I forget what it was, but they shortened it down like about, I think it was 3 weeks. I think they shortened it by 3 weeks, right? And the platoons were bigger. There were 84 guys in my platoon.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then that was six platoons in the company.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
And I mean, there was more people because at that time, as it turns out, I don't, why they drafted right at that time.
No, not really.
Okay, well, at that there was the powers to be, Westmoreland primarily, they had a plan that they were going to invade North Vietnam. Okay,
right.
That was one of their plans, but they needed to increase troop strength to 500,000. Okay,
yeah.
So the Marine Corps started. The Marine Corps drafted in order to increase troop strength. We had seen, I think Hamburger Hill had happened. I believe it had happened while I went through basic. I remember looking at the Stars and Stripes and seeing all the empty boots on the front page of the Stars and Stripes of how many men they lost in that battle.
Yeah.
So they had increased troop strength to 500,000. So they shortened the time period of training in the Marine Corps, and they increased the platoon size.
Right.
Basically, they were just shuffling us through, basically.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, okay, you did your time there, and then at this point, did you go on to more training, like School of Infantry type stuff?
I believe it was, I want to say, it's been a while, man. I want to say maybe 2 months, 3 months.
Yeah,
August, September, October. Yeah, it's August. I graduated August, into September. Yeah, into September. October, November. Yeah. So yeah, about that time, because I ended up in California after my leave. They give you the 30-day leave. I ended up out in California with my dad on Christmas Eve. Okay.
Oh wow.
Actually, I went to Camp Pendleton on Christmas Eve.
Oh, okay. So you went to School of Infantry there.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And then how was your experience there? That's definitely the West Coast versus
I ate it up,
a little different. What's that?
I honestly did. I mean, I was in football. You know, I played football, basketball, baseball. I was very athletic, so I ate it up. I mean, PT didn't bother me. You know, my drill instructor loved me, but I did have a problem though. Okay, I forgot to leave this up. When I took the battery of tests, the recruiter tried to convince me to join for 4 years, but I stayed at the 2-year mark. He says, man, you're very intelligent. You know, you should, you know, you'll get more out of the Marine Corps, yada, yada, yada. He gave me that spiel. And the test that they gave me at boot camp too, there was myself and another guy by the name of Murphy, who was, he went in the reserves. He wasn't in, he was a reservist. And he was also coming out of college. They were trying to convince Murphy to, you know, stay in too. He and I were the only ones that had a high score on this test, and they thought that we had to take the test again with DI standing in front of us. Okay,
They thought you were.
they thought we cheated or something. I don't know what the hell they thought. You know, I mean, like next thing you know, Murphy and I are in there again, and they're saying that we're going to take the test, and there's 2 DIs standing there, and I'm like, what the heck, man? Well, I don't know. I forget the score, but it was really high, and I failed infantry. Everything else I was high on, but the infantry part, it didn't really come in so well. So that happened, and I was platoon guide-on. I was supposed to get the dress blues and the guide-ons and the house mouse, and the squad leaders were all supposed to get the PFC stripes, but I was the only one who was supposed to get the dress blues. They didn't give it to me. Okay, they gave it to Murphy, to try to convince Murphy to change over, right? The other thing that happened was when the MOSs came out, I remember that too. I hear 0311 Confair Westpac. I'm going, 0311 Confair Westpac. Wait a minute. What's Confair Westpac? Yeah, so yeah, of course we waited. And he says, that you stupid, nah, that's across the pond. You're going across the big pond. Well, that gave me an attitude change, because I was told that I was going to get good training because of my score, you know what I mean? I would have a good job, you know, yada, yada. Now I'm finding out, wait a minute. I'm a grunt and I'm going across the pond. No, that ain't supposed to happen. My drill instructor saw that I had a little bit of an attitude problem, called me into his office. He basically went up one end and down the other. He said, I don't know what's wrong with you, Dunning. You know, get in the back, mouse, get in there. And he handed the house mouse the guide on. We were that far into training, you know. So I'm now at the back of the platoon with the house mouse, short house mouse at the front as the lead guide on. The DI, I mean, my senior drill instructor, he couldn't figure out what was wrong, you know. So just before graduation and everything, he called me into his office and he had a personal conversation with me. Okay. He says, listen, Dunning, I don't know what your problem is. You're one of the best recruits I've ever had come through here. Okay, what's your problem? And I explained to him. He says, son, the Marine Corps has a tendency, you know, you're in the best part of the Marine Corps, 0311. You're one of the best. So I don't know, you know, just stick to your training. Remember what you learned. You know, the rank's going to come, but do me a favor. I can't have the house mouse graduate. You've been the guide on for the whole thing. Please carry the gun on. I trust me, you'll get your PFC stripe when you get to basic training. You'll get it. I mean, Lance, PFC. So I agreed, and I have a picture in the graduating book of me passing a review with the senior drill instructor carrying the guide on.
Very nice.
And I did get my PFC stripe in when I got to Pendleton. I did get it in Pendleton. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Well, they came. That's a good thing.
Yeah. So, Pendleton was different. Pendleton was it was very trying. The training there was pretty rough, I felt. But they knocked off a bunch of things. I mean, they didn't have the jungle warfare training. They had knocked that out. Okay. I remember seeing an M16, and at that time, people don't believe me, but I grew up with Mattel. I grew up with the Mattel toys. Okay. The first ones that they printed out, man, they had the logo in there, okay, but it didn't say Mattel, but it was the logo. And when I trained with the M14, so when we got there and they took us and they gave us these M16s and we had to clean all the axle, all the grease off of them and everything, and I looked, I go, wait a minute, this is made by a toy company. And the guys are going, no way. And I'm telling you, man, are you kidding me? So we went to the range. I remember firing it, and a magazine, the Sim 16 is gone in seconds.
Yeah.
So I'm like, wow. So that's we fan fired it. Okay, basically, we fan fired the weapon. I didn't see an M16 till I got to Vietnam. When I got to Vietnam and they gave me one, they gave me like 6 magazines, right? Okay, I'm looking at the guy and I'm saying, 6 magazines. You realize how fast this weapon fires? I mean, what the hell am I supposed to do with 6 magazines? And he throws a bunch of bandoleros at me and says, reload. Right? So,
Nice.
I mean, that didn't sit well. I'm there, and this guy hit me in the back of my helmet. He says, "Hey, F and G, man, just go acquire some more magazines, bro."
Yeah.
So that's what I did. Loaded them all up, and I had, I think it was like 20, 30 magazines, I think, in the bandoleros all loaded up.
Yeah, yeah.
In my first action, I was reaching for pouches that were empty before I got wounded.
Really?
Yep. My very first action. Yeah. I got wounded 30 days in country.
At 30 days.
30 days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tet had just started. Wow. We were in Da Nang and in the first Marine Division rear area in Da Nang. And the unit, 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines, was up in Con Tien. Okay. And we went from Da Nang to Quang Tri. And Quang Tri, I was on the last convoy that pulled the gear out of Quang Tri up to Dong Ha. So I went to Hue City during the day, and really my first thought sitting on the top of the trucks with all the gear and everything on those 6x was, wow, man, this country's not that bad. It's beautiful. Hue City was beautiful. There were French Vietnamese women walking around holding hands. And, I remember the guys thinking, man, look at these women, man. This place is awesome. Hue City was where we went, it looked very nice. It was like French colonial, glass windows. And I've never seen it before. This is my first time out of the country, so there's no battle sounds. There's no nothing. It was people walking in the streets, and about 2 days later, it blew up. And I remember the sirens going off. First, we could hear the first thing was the 105s. Never heard a 105 battery fire, and the concussion. You jump up in the air every time the rounds fire. Yeah. Like, what the hell? Everybody's nervous. Says, man, that's outgoing. Don't worry about it. That's the outgoing stuff. And I remember the siren going off about the 2nd day we were there. Yeah, there was a lot of outgoing, and then the sirens went off the 2nd day. We're there in the evening, and they're telling us to get in the bunker, and I remember looking and seeing green tracers going up in the air, red and green ones, and it's like, what the hell is going on off in the distance? It's, damn, man, they're really fighting in Hue City. It's like, what? Hue City? Holy, we just went through Hue City, Yeah. So it kind of blew up. It all started then. And then that next day, they said, okay, you're going to get on Highway 9 and go up to your unit. Well, the highway got shut down and we got stuck at a army base. Okay. The next morning, just like in MASH, the medevacs were coming in, and a bunch of us Marines volunteered and went up to there. And that's where I saw my first war wound. Guy came out with, he had stepped on a mine. I didn't know, I saw his leg and I didn't know what happened to him, but it's in my mind. Wow, what happened to that guy? And I asked someone, he says, oh, he stepped on a mine. I was like, holy cow, that's pretty intense. So, I had my first war wound visual, and then they came in and they said, mine sweep got ambushed. Okay, so we need volunteers. Marines, you know how we are. We jump up. Yeah, man. I remember going in the trucks out with a tank, and I think there was there was a tank in the lead and a couple of trucks with us on it, and I want to say there was a quad 50 on another vehicle. Yeah, I'd never seen a quad 50 before either. So we're going out, and then as we're getting to a river, there was a river up ahead, and I remember seeing a hamlet sitting off the road, and running through the rice paddy in the opposite direction, like with his arms all flailing, were two South Vietnamese army regulars. And one of the assaults on the vehicle says, those son of a guns, man, they're always doing that. They were running out of their gear in the opposite direction.
Oh,
Okay.
really?
Yeah. And he,
Wow.
I mean, he says, man, man, they never fight. They always run, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty interesting. And then there was an explosion. The tank got hit by an RPG. We all piled out the trucks and we're lined up on the side of the road. And we got to the water. I could see flashes on the other side of the river. And I remember searching through with Beaky. Now back to James Beaky. Beaky was in my platoon, and we're together again. And he and I had to search this hooch. Well, I almost shot a family in the hooch because they were hiding in a spider hole. So that happened, Beaky and I. And then we came out and went to the river. Well, as I'm firing, we're just firing across the river, you know. I mean, there was nothing shooting at us, but I could see the flashes, and it's just like the enemy's over there. So, you know, we're firing in that direction, you know. And I went to load a magazine, and I felt this thing go by my ear, and I saw it embed in the dirt in between my arm and the weapon as I was loading the magazine. It went right past my ear, and I saw it hit the dirt, and I said, man, we're getting shot at from behind. We got to pull back, you know? And I was the one that was senior in command at the time as a PFC. So they listened to me and we pulled back. And I remember passing that same hooch, and there was a guy crouched down at the door. And I said, hey, man, we got to pull back. We got to pull back. And he just looked at me and stayed there. Well, we pulled back and got behind these mounds in the rice paddy, and about maybe 200 meters away, there was a guy. It was mortar rounds coming in. I could hear the bloop, bloop. And then after a little while, the swish. But it was a muffled explosion because it was landing in rice paddy water. Okay, so it's still not connecting, you know, the up in the air and a little bit of smoke, but nothing's really connecting that, hey, man, that could kill you, you know?
Right.
So I'm there watching, and there was a sniper that was dueling with the mortar tube. Why I say dueling? Because I'm watching him, he crack. And then I hear bloop, bloop, and they're going to get down. Here comes mortars again. I said, man, that guy's trying to shoot the mortar tube. It was just quick thinking. And then I saw him get hit. I was the only one that jumped up and ran to him. When he got hit, I jumped up instantly and ran around people to get to him. When I got to him, he was kind of hollering and stuff. And I said, okay, brother, I got you. I went to pick him up, and he said, get my piece, get my piece. And he was fighting me. So I was like, he said, oh, get my piece, get my piece. And I remember when I turned around to get his piece, something hit me in my ass and the back of my leg. Like I got punched. And then it felt like, they said, what did it feel like? I said, you ever see the Little Rascals where Spanky or something gets burnt and he's trying to put the fire out on the ground, rubbing his butt? That's exactly what it kind of felt like. It got very hot. I felt like something was burning right through my body. And, so I got hit.
Wow.
The guy that, as it turns out, the guy that was hanging at the door was the one that came to pick me up. Sadly, I got hit again. He was carrying me. I got hit again, and he didn't make it. And that's how I ended up going in the hospital the first time.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay, so you got hit twice in that same.
Twice within about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Twice.
Okay, so you went to the hospital. How long were you in the hospital for?
We went down to First Med, which was really crazy. It was a lot of wounded. I remember seeing people that I had seen in training laying in there. Yeah, I saw about 5 different guys that I never was with them, but you know, you see faces during training because you go through as a series. And I remember seeing guys that I knew in there, and that's when the reality of you know, just how serious it was really hit me. So I was in Da Nang for First Med for about maybe a couple of days till they assessed me out. Then I went up to Cam Bay, and I was in Cam Bay for, I want to say maybe altogether 2 weeks.
Okay.
Maybe somewhere close to 2 weeks before getting shipped up to Con-Tien.
Yeah. Wow. It's not a lot of time. You know, I'm sure the healing process and all that stuff probably wasn't even completely done at that point.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. In fact, actually, I thought I lost my foot because the second hit me in my ankle. And I
Oh, wow.
remember when I hit the rice paddy water and was under the rice paddy. When I got hit, I thought, fuck, my foot just got blown. I just lost my foot. But there was a weight on me and I couldn't push up out of the rice paddy water. And when the weight got taken off of me, which was the person that was carrying me,
Yeah.
and I looked, the first thing I did was look down and go, oh shit, my foot's still there, okay.
Yeah.
And then the pain set in. Well, what happened was it was a little bit of a shrapnel. I still have shrapnel in my butt. Back to the story of the 7 magazines. They handed me one canteen plastic, no canteen cup. All right.
Nice.
So
okay.
I stole metal canteens and 2 metal canteen cups. I had them on my ass, on each ass cheek when I got hit. The canteen is why I'm able to walk today, because it went through the canteen cup. It is still buried there. They couldn't operate because they said if we take it out, you won't be able to walk. Okay,
wow.
So that was divine providence, because if I hadn't had those canteens back there, I really wouldn't be walking today, man.
Yeah.
So
wow.
Anyways, I got hit in my butt, and then the back of my leg on the right side, and then my left ankle. Well, no, the wounds, and they still have shrapnel in the back of my leg, and I still have shrapnel in my butt. And there was a little bit, it had touched the tendons about the size of a pencil tip. Touched the tendons, the tendons in the front of your ankle there, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's what made it feel like it had knocked my foot off, because it touched the tendons as it went in. Well, they never got it out. And I remember ended up in Contien in the aid station with the doc operating on my foot. And I hear something go into the tray. And he goes, oh, you still got shrapnel in there. And I'm like, hit that. And I remember when I used to shrapnel, and he showed me to a real small piece,
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. So no, the wounds were never totally healed. I mean, they healed in the bush.
Okay. And then, so you went, you went back to the same unit. Is that right? Yeah.
Yep. Contien. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. While I was in the hospital, I told this guy, the story how I got hit. Told him I almost ran out of ammo. He's laughing. He says, "Oh, you almost ran out of ammo." I says, "Yeah." He's laughing. He says, "Why don't you be a gunner?" I go, "Gunner?" He says, "Yeah, man. Everybody carries gun ammo." Well, stupid me. I mean, a light bulb went off in my head. Oh shit! I'll never run. He says, "You'll never run out of ammo." I mean, that was. Oh my god. So I get up to my unit, and they say, "Hey, Dunning, so what's up with you?" I says, "Man, I'm a gunner." He says, "Oh, you're a gunner, really? A gunner, huh?" I says, "Yeah, I'm a gunner." Hey Zach, get in here. I got a gunner for you. I met he actually taught me about the gun. I didn't know the first thing about AM60, man. I fired it maybe one time. I didn't know the first thing about him, right? So we get out of the bunker. He says, "Man, you never fired AM60." I says, "No." He says, "What the hell?" He says, "Why are you telling me he was a gunner?" I told him the story. He starts laughing. He says, "Man, you're so you have to be one of the dumbest bitches to be. Do you know what the life expectancy of a machine gunner is, bro?" But I mean, I loved it. We never, the gunners then, unless we received direct fire, we didn't have to commit the gun. I mean,
right.
You know the story. So, but I loved the hog. I really did. I loved it.
Yeah.
So that's what I ended up carrying over there. Yeah.
So you were carrying that through the swamps and all the other places that you had to go. I'm sure that was loads of fun carrying that around.
Yeah, big fun. We were in I-Corps.
Yeah.
Big fun, humping up and down hills. Yeah, oh yeah, big fun. I mean, I'm 6'1" at the time. I weighed about 190 pounds. I was well built. So I used to carry 400 rounds plus 100 on the weapon.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So you're there back doing, now you're a gunner. Kind of what were some of the experiences and what happened with you at that point?
Well, I don't know if you know much about Contien, but this is when Khe Sanh was besieged. Contien was like the worst place in Vietnam to be. Okay, they actually have a 60 minutes documentary on Contien that you can Google search it. It's I mean, I didn't see it until about 20 years ago. Man,
Yeah.
Wow, I had no idea. But yeah, I did. Prior to getting up there, in fact, prior to me getting wounded, I remember being in a tent and hearing a conversation, some guys talking to someone that they knew, and he had been wounded. And he came back and they were talking to him, and he was telling them about the CP bunker getting hit. I heard that conversation. And they say, remember so-and-so, he's a radio man. He says, yeah, man. He says, man, he was in a CP bunker. And they go, what the hell is that? And they go, that's his 45. And that conversation, because they said, what the hell is that? And then someone says, that's his 45. And then I heard go, that's a 45. And I went into the other room to see, into the other part of the tent to see what it looked like. I couldn't recognize the metal that was in his hand. Okay. They said that was on his hip. And I couldn't recognize it as being a 45. I mean, a little parts of it I could, but the most of it was like so chunked up and messed up. It really didn't have, you could see that it was part of a 45 because of the metal, obviously, but it was in no shape. So I'm saying, wow, that was on his hip. He goes, yeah, the CP bunker took a direct hit and he was in the bunker when it hit. So that gave me an inkling of what Contan was like, right? When I finally got up there, man, Contan was no joke, bro. It really wasn't. They used to fire at us twice a day, 11 o'clock in the morning till about maybe 11:30. And then from 1:30-ish, between 1:30-ish and maybe 2:30-ish, they would fire again. And the reason that they would fire in those separate times is that's how long it took the B-52s to come from Guam and hang out, okay, before they went back. And then the second flight would come and they would hang out and then they would go back and then they'd roll the guns out of the mountain up there. It's called Korak Mountain. It was in Laos. They would roll the guns out and fire it and take them back in. Now, Contan actually was the furthest most fire base in Vietnam. We were 3 clicks from the DMZ.
Oh, wow.
On a clear day, we could see NVA tanks in the DMZ.
No kidding. Wow. That's
there was
wild.
They had a rules of was called rules of engagement up there that we couldn't fire unless being fired upon. We couldn't go into the DMZ, but obviously the NVA and them they didn't follow the rules of engagement at all. Obviously,
yeah, it always applies to us, never to them. That's the way
they
it
had their
works.
own rules.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I know that you have been, correct me if I'm wrong, there's been a documentary that you were involved with, or some paper or documents. I can't remember which.
Actually, I've been in a few things. I'm in a couple of books.
Okay.
Yeah, a couple of books. The first one's called House of the Purple Hearts. There's six chapters. I'm chapter 4, and it has to do with is based with the New England Shelter for Homeless Vets in Boston. That was the first shelter for veterans in the country.
Wow.
It was a defunct VA hospital, outpatient VA hospital in downtown Boston that a bunch of veterans squatted in the building, and eventually they got funding and got money and stuff. Al Pacino donated $7,000 to build a bathroom, and eventually became the New England Shelter for Homeless Vets.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, it was the first one in the country. Actually, Colin Powell came to it, and they had a computer class there for veterans, and the first graduating class, he handed out the diplomas to the first graduators.
Wow, that is really cool. Huh.
Yep.
And you were there for all that.
Yep. Actually, I was involved with helping it. I was administrative assistant when I ended up going to the shelter. Yep. I was the administrative assistant to a Warren Quinlan, and we were invited to Washington, D.C. Warren came to, because he heard my story. I mean, I'm giving you like tidbits here, because there was a lot of stuff happening. Like, I don't know if you know about the 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines. We became known as the walking, the Ghost Battalion.
Yes. Yeah.
You know that story.
Yeah. And there's a book, if I'm not mistaken, specifically about that is it called Ghost Battalion? If I'm not mistaken.
Well, I don't know. Okay, we were called the Ghost Battalion is because we got sent back to Hill 881 North and South. Okay. And within 2 days of being there, I mean, come on, man. The hill was zeroed in. Okay. And I remember the second day being there, seeing Golf Company run off the top of 881 North, run down and off the top of the hill and run down into the bush. And then right after they ran down to the bush, that told me that something was getting ready to happen, because here a whole battalion, is running off that hill off in the distance. And then we started receiving rounds, incoming rounds, 105 recoilless rifle rounds. And so the old man made a calculated decision to walk us back to Quezon. So that's how we got during the night. We were a single file, man. I mean, I think it was like maybe 28 hours or something like that we humped.
Oh, no kidding. Wow.
It was 33 miles by the Crow. Okay.
Yeah.
And we humped, we left, we got out of there, I think 4 o'clock in the afternoon or something like that, and humped all night and all day. Okay. During the night, I remember hearing rounds, off in the distance on our flanks. And I finally got a chance to ask the old man at a reunion why he walked us out. He said they couldn't get the choppers in. They couldn't get the choppers in to get us all out. So he made a calculated decision to save us, because he said that how the Ghost Battalion thing came up, the chatter over the Vietnam, the NVA radios was, "Where are they? Where are they?" And he says, "We don't know where they are. They disappeared as if ghosts." And that's how we got the nickname, the Ghost Battalion. The whole battalion walked out.
Okay. Yeah. That's really cool.
Longest walk I ever had in my life, man. Longest hump.
Yeah. 33 miles as a crow flies. I mean, you're definitely doing way more than 33 miles, especially through the jungle and all that.
Way more. Yep. It's in, we have, I don't know if you know about the 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines. They're an organization as big as, other than the 1st Marine Division's organization. We have a reunion every year. You can find the website and everything. There's a book out called We Remember that they have. We meet every year, around the time of the Marine Corps birthday for about 5 days. And it balances out with the Marine Corps birthday at the same time. We either meet in Pendleton or DC or someplace within the country.
Okay.
But yeah, that story is in the book. I remember I told somebody, and they, "Oh man, that's not true." I go, "Yes, it is true." And then, they came up with a book, We Remember, and it's all of that's in there.
Wow. That's pretty wild. So you were there for some pretty epic moments in Marine Corps history.
Oh yeah. Very epic, actually. Very epic. I was there. We got stuck. Contian was so bad that they had to rotate units every 2 weeks. Well, when my unit got up there, they got stuck there, man. The TET had just kicked off. The Highway 9 had got shut down. Okay. They couldn't get any choppers or anything in and out. There was a single truck driver that drove us ammo up by himself.
Wow.
I ended up meeting this truck driver years later in South Carolina. I helped him get his. I worked for the VA at one time. I helped get him his paperwork. They said, "Oh man, you're just a truck driver." When I met him in a conversation, I'm going. He says, "I know Contian." I go, "What do you know about Contian? You're in the Army." He says, "I used to drive ammo up there." Man, my hair stood up, because there was a love-hate relationship with this guy. Okay, the truck they had the watering hole, which was maybe, I want to say 500 meters down the road at the edge of the tree line where there was water. They had a company, I forget what they called that area, Yankee Station maybe, where they set up a unit down there to hold that position. And the truck would go there and we'd get "Hey man, that son of a bitch is coming again." And when he would rev up his engines and fly up the road, with this big cloud of dust, and the NV used to fire whenever that truck showed up. So we had a love-hate relationship with that truck. But he was the one that brought ammo, and he brought the mail. He heard that we were stuck up in Contian, and he volunteered to bring us ammo, man. That dude he's passed away. He was the bravest person I ever met in my life. Really.
That's insane. He did it by himself. He just got
by himself. He couldn't get a person to ride with him shotgun even. He would drive the road by himself to bring us ammo.
That's impressive.
Contian was no joke. When we got stuck up there, the bunker, when my unit got there, the bunkers were in disarray because every 2 weeks, they were rotating unit because it was so bad. So the bunkers were in bad shape. But when we got stuck, we had to really dig in and build stuff up. And we were there for about maybe 2-3 months. I want to say to Operation Pegasus. That was a joint air calv. It was actually an air cavalry operation that the Marines were attached to. We were attached to them. So it wasn't until Operation Pegasus that we were able to get out. And that's also when they did the only jump in Vietnam. They did a jump. They lost a bunch of people, but it was to divert the enemy. You know about that one, the Army unit that did the jump?
No, I don't think I know that story. Yeah.
Yeah. There's an Army unit that did an airborne jump there in broad daylight.
Wow. I did not know that. I'll have to look that up. That's very interesting.
Yeah, look it up. They got chopped up, but they did it for a reason, to divert attention, and we were able to get out of Con Thien because of that.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, Operation Pegasus, we went to relieve Khe Sanh. Operation Pegasus was to relieve the siege of Khe Sanh. It was Pegasus 1 and 2. So I actually walked into Khe Sanh.
Holy cow. That's amazing. Well, hey, I think that's a good place to kind of put a pause on it, and then we'll come back and do part 2. Is that all right with you?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Man.
Okay. Awesome. Well, hey, thanks, Ron, for joining us. To everybody out there, if you're struggling and need some help or anything like that, you want to hurt yourself or hurt somebody else, please reach out for help. You can always dial 988, press option 1. There'll be somebody there to be able to help you. If you don't want to call and you'd rather text, you can text 838-255. Again, that's 838-255. Or if you don't want to do that and you'd rather chat online or something like that, you could always go to veteranscrisisline.net, and they have that chat icon that you can get on. Somebody there is going to be able to help you out. But I care about you. I know Ron cares about you. All the veterans do. One veteran's life lost is one too many. So please reach out for help. But with that, Ron, thank you for coming on. To all the listeners, stay motivated, change your socks.